guys, welcome back to another episode. We're the Common Creatives. Thank you for joining us on this podcast. I'm your host Lisa, and as usual we have Bradley and Sharleen. So before we start off this discussion, we just wanted to let you guys know that we've made a survey, and we would love to hear you guys, give us some feedback and whatnot. And where can they find the link, Bradley, to this
It's
survey?
in our bio. Basically, it's like a form where you guys can sort of say whatever you want. All responses are anonymous. So essentially, you can give us feedback on how you're finding our topics, or if you'd like to recommend any future topics for us to discuss, who you'd like to see on this podcast, because essentially we are intending this podcast to be a place for all creatives. So you can leave some suggestions there, and also any sort of experiences that you'd like to share with us, stories or whatever. We're pretty keen to hear from you guys. I'm going to do a bit of a stretch whilst I say this, but in
terms of bio, that's our Instagram bio, guys. I don't think Bradley mentioned that. So
I'll also leave it in the description of this video as well. Aside from that, if you are listening only through audio or audio streaming platforms like Apple Podcasts.
Podcasts.
Yeah, please give us a review or rating if you can, please. And we are very sensitive, so 5 stars only. Do whatever you want, really. But yeah, essentially it will help us out a lot. We just want to see what the reception's like. But so far, we've only heard good things. So thank you so much for tuning in. Alrighty, shall we get into it?
Back to the episode.
Yes. Back to the episode, guys. So today's topic, which I'm super excited about, we're going to be talking about self-care and what we think of it, and just, have an open discussion about it. So let's get straight into it, guys. What do you guys think? Self-care, what comes to your mind when you hear that word?
Well, I initially thought self-care, maybe this is like a few years ago. I just thought it was about meditating, connecting with your spiritual self, like that's giving yourself some self-care. But actually, recently I've learned that there are so many different types of self-care. There are so many branches. There's like physical, emotional, practical, spiritual, like there's social self-care as well, financial. So there's heaps and heaps. And sometimes we actually practice self-care without even noticing. So for example, just before this podcast, I was tidying up my room, cleaning out my space, decluttering a little bit, vacuuming my room, and it just makes me feel a bit more productive, a little bit more clean. So I feel good, I feel good about my day. Yeah, so self-care can be something small, but it can also be something big. So what about you guys?
Do you want to go ahead with that, Lisa? Okay, yeah, I'll go ahead. I think self-care is just a way of focusing on yourself as an individual, personally, to grow essentially and sort of improve your well-being, and the way you sort of handle your emotions, and sort of ensuring that you are at the best possible sort of state of mind through all certain situations. Like self-care can help improve your emotional states, or the way you cope through times of adversity. So that's what I believe sort of self-care is, sort of taking the time to sort of work on yourself and help develop the best character that you can be, essentially.
I like that. I really agree with the things that you've both said, and I also really think that self-care is not a luxury as some people would say it is. I definitely think that it is a priority, and it should be a priority for everyone. Obviously, I know everyone lives a different life and we all have different priorities, but I think self-care should always come first, just because, it's like, if you're not going to take care of yourself, like who else is going to? Because, it's your body, it's your well-being, it's essentially your life. And if you aren't going to take care of it, like no one else will. And I think you know, in times like this, like we live in such a fast-paced life. Like you guys know, we all have a lot of things going on, a lot of responsibilities and whatnot. And sometimes, well, personally, I find like I neglect, you know, my self-care, my well-being, just because I'm so preoccupied with ABCD that, you know, winding down, setting time aside for yourself, you know, it's just not on my mind. But I think it's something everybody should start being conscious about, because it's definitely a big factor in, you know, like you said, you know, in yourself. What's the word you said? Like self-improvement, like being the best version of yourself.
Self-development, and trying to create the best character that you can sort of envision, essentially, of yourself. I guess because we're so caught up in all our sort of crazy lives, everything's so fast-paced. You know, our attention spans have definitely become so, you know, smaller.
Thanks,
so
TikTok.
we're always trying to absorb information, you know, left, right, and center. You know, we can never take too much, but I guess we sort of put all our thoughts on sort of the external forces of our lives, where we, you know, forget to sort of focus it back on ourselves, you know, in a way.
Yes. I agree.
But yeah, self-care. It's not, I don't think, like, you know, men don't really talk about self-care. I don't think, you know, as much, or like, I don't know. I don't really think I participate in actively participate in self-care, to the stereotype, you know, how like you see the females, self-care day is like a day where we go out and, you know, get this done. We're going to get our nails done. We're going to go for a massage. Yeah, like a pamper day, you know, like
a facial.
Treat yourself.
You know what I mean?
But let's normalize that, you know, men should
just break those barriers.
Yes, you know, toxic masculinity, like who are you? It's 2020 now, guys.
It's not a topic.
Express yourself.
No. Yeah. I really agree with that. But also, like, again, like some people do think that that's what self-care is, just like pamper days. But like us three really agreed that it's so much more than that. And going back to what Sharleen said about how there's like different ways of self-care and like the different categories as well. Like there's so much more. Do you guys do anything like you find that benefits you or makes you feel better, or you would say is sort of a self-care for you personally?
Sharleen, you want to start this off, or?
Well, because of lockdown. Oh yeah, I was.
Sorry, it was a bit of a lag, guys.
So ever since lockdown, it had a really big impact on me because, you know, I can't see my friends. You know, obviously you can see them on, you know, FaceTime on my screen, but not one-on-one and live, physical. Yeah, exactly. So I've been working on a lot of, I guess, emotional self-care, just winding down and really thinking about all my thoughts, my thought process. If I am struggling a little bit, like what are my coping mechanisms? Just expressing myself maybe in another way. So yeah, I've just been doing a little bit more of creative things. So on the creative side, I've been, for example, like baking per usual, but I've also picked up like video editing. So I just, you know, posted up a video on YouTube, which is quite a big thing because I've always put that off, and I finally did it, bit the bullet. Yeah, so really it's just understanding my emotions, which is what Lisa mentioned before. You know, it is actually really important to give yourself that time because it really builds confidence in yourself. And then when you're hanging around with people, like socializing, it really does show. And it's just maintaining that healthy relationship with not only the people around you, but also yourself, which is extremely important. I think we neglect that because, like you guys said, we live in such a fast environment, and we kind of sometimes just forget about ourselves. We look after a lot of people around us, the people we love, but, you know, we should love ourselves too, and we should really take good care of ourselves. Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Beautifully said. Love that. What about you, Bradley? What are you doing?
What am I doing?
What are you doing?
I swear, like in every video, I'm like, yeah. I don't know. My self-care routine. That's an interesting thing. Like,
do you have a routine?
I don't know. I'm trying to get myself in a routine, sort of, you know.
I've been getting notifications of you running all the time. So
yeah, you have, Sharleen. Yeah, that's after I've been. I guess that's what I've implemented during lockdown. Like, since we're quarantined to be at home, I've decided to sort of run every day to help improve my general fitness. And I don't run like a marathon or anything. I'm no athlete, for those listening. But I run essentially 1 kilometer every day, and I've been doing that for a good 2 months now. And it feels good, you know, like, and it's more of that came about just because I read the best-selling book, New York Times, you know, Atomic Habits, you know, and reading that book, that just helped me realize how to create good habits and break bad habits. And I guess people need routines, especially in times like this, because that's what you fall back on when you hit a wall in your life or something like that. You need a routine to support you up. So I guess that's in a sense a self-care sort of strategy or thing that I do. Other than that,
definitely.
Self-care. What else? I think, like, before we started recording this, Sharleen mentioned that, like, I play games, and that I do that, like, with my friends, maybe on a Friday, Saturday, on the weekend, you know, just to wind down, chill out. I think that's probably a form of self-care, which I never actually realized until Sharleen sort of brought it up and said, oh yeah, that's probably up there. That's a form of self-care. And now that I think about it, it is, you know, like, I'm enjoying myself, sort of bonding with my friends, and sort of, things like that.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, a lot of the times we actually...
social self-care.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that what you're going to say as well?
Oh, yeah. And
I think it's,
And I was going to say,
like the social self-care.
Like, we don't realize we're actually practicing self-care. So just, you know, a good example, like what Bradley said, you know, he was just been playing games with his friends, and it's actually a form of self-care. You know, you're looking after yourself, giving yourself that time and detaching from the world around you, and looking after yourself in a different way. So it's not always about doing your nails, pampering, having a facial. It's all the other things as well.
Yeah. What about you, Lisa? Let us in.
Yeah. Let you in.
Open the door.
Like what you guys said. I probably didn't really pay attention to what self-care is until probably like very, very recently. Like, I'd probably say like last year. And I think this sort of ties in with like having bad habits as well, and breaking them, and then like Bradley saying, forming a routine so that you sort of have that to help you, you know, cope day by day. For me, it would definitely be like, you know, in the past, like I, you know, like whoever knows me, like I love food, like I love eating, no doubt about that. And
your cooking is great too, so
bad. Oh, thank you.
So I don't blame you.
Chef. Thanks. I formed like a really bad habit with food. Essentially, it was just more like every time when I felt, you know, stressed or like upset or just wasn't feeling great, I would just instantly eat food. And I'm not talking about like, oh, we're gonna snack on a banana, we're gonna cut up some apples and like dip it with no, it's more like I want KFC, I want McDonald's, I want pizza. Like, give me all that greasy shit, you know, fry it up, serve it up, you know,
oily
like
lips.
All of that.
Let's get it going.
Just get it going. High cholesterol, come on. It was literally like every single time, and it became like, it was like I conditioned my brain. So it's like every time when I felt that way, it, like in my mind, I was like, I'm going to feel so amazing if I finish this whole pizza, this large pepperoni pizza. Like, you know, my mind, that's what my mind thought. And, you know, I would eat it. And then by the time I finish the pizza, I'm like, I feel fucking shit. I feel really crap. Like, this isn't like, I thought I would feel good, but that's not what it is. And so for a really long time, that was my relationship with food, guys. Like, that's how I would eat, even if I was full. if I was feeling stressed, I would still eat. So, stress eating or like binging, like just those kind of things. And it wasn't until recently when I realized like that is so unhealthy for me, and that was affecting not only like my physical health but also like my mental health as well, like psychology as well, is affecting that as well. So I just started reading like a lot of books, watching a lot of videos, and people were saying like, you definitely can break bad habits. Like, it's not going to be easy, but if you just start rewiring your brain recondition it, and associating it with something else, then it could be better. So I just started associating all those stressed and like those emotions with exercising. So, doing some physical activity. And at the start it was so difficult. I was like, I fucking hate this. Like, it's too much. But after a while, like, it was just a routine. Like, it doesn't matter now. Like, every single day when I wake up, it doesn't matter if I'm feeling great or I'm feeling shit or I've had a bad week, I had a bad night or whatnot. I would still try and do the exercise, because I know at the end of it, I'm going to feel so great. And you both know it's scientifically proven because it releases endorphins. But just personally for me, I just feel great. I'm like, yeah, like I did that. So now I can carry on with the rest of the day feeling absolutely amazing and knocking out everything else that I need to do on my list. So that's my self-care. Sorry, I rambled on a lot, but that's my
you know what they say though? It's like it's the little wins that actually count. It's the little wins, and I guess that's what people need to realize. Like, you don't need to amount to doing like the biggest or hardest task that there is out there. That's been sort of lurking on your mind. It's just like work your way up on it and do the small things first, because that eventually creates the foundations. That you fall back on, and you realize that, look, I've done this, I've already achieved all this, so now it's going to propel me to take on the next thing higher, and it's going to make me be able to break that barrier that I think was so hard to do, but it's always going to be hard at the start, as you said, when you try to recondition yourself to do, something new that you haven't done in a while, or you haven't done at all. Like, it's always going to be difficult, but like, there's no shortcuts in life, as they say, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Today's choices are tomorrow's consequences, guys.
That's it. The
quote of
thing
the
I
day.
said before. Do something today so your future self will thank you for
Another
tomorrow.
quote of the day.
Yeah.
Quotes of the day, guys. Write it down.
That quote, I learned that, I read that somewhere maybe 2-3 years ago. I think maybe 2 years now. From now, I read that quote on the internet, and literally it resonated with me a lot. Like, I don't know why. I was like just going on the internet looking at memes, and it just came up, do something today so your future self will thank you for tomorrow. I was like, damn, why you gotta expose me like that? Like, why do you know that what I'm doing right now is like jack shit, and I'm not doing like what I know I could be doing and being the best version of myself that I could be? Like, why do you have to attack me like that? And that should resonate with anyone, really, because we all know what we should be doing, but we're not doing. That's maybe the budgeting.
Yes.
That's important because you're self-aware. Yeah. So
yeah.
So
budgeting,
yeah. Anyways,
financial
self-care.
My financial self-care is like out. It's not even here. What is financial self-care?
Well, that's what I was sort of going to get into as well, because some people can mask self-care as there's a fine line between self-care and sort of, are you masking it as a negative or toxic behavior? Where do you draw the line to when you're saying, I need this because like this will help me be the best person
Bradley,
I can be.
Stop exposing me.
Yeah, but
she feels attacked.
Well, that's what I said. Like, the first thing is to be like, because you know what you shouldn't be doing, but you're doing it. That's important to know, and it just shows that you're not like a psychopath or like a sociopath. That like your actions and what it's doing is probably not the best for you, right? But obviously, it's gonna be harder to like break those things that we know. But like, a lot of people can mask that as self-care, and if it's like not healthy for them, like Sharleen, at least you're aware. Think about the people who don't think they're aware of it.
But the thing is, like, I'm aware of it, and I keep doing it. I keep pressing that proceed button, pay now button, pay with Apple Card or whatever. I'm like, yep, pre-filled form, too easy.
Bad when they do the autocorrect. Not the autocorrect, the autofill out. Like you
so bad. It's like pay with PayPal, fast track. No, but you're right, Brad. So I think that's one thing I'm trying to work on. First, I realized that I was actually masking that. I was kind of I'm just splurging. I'm taking care of myself. Like I need this. This is going to be good for summer me, summertime. You need new summer clothes. But actually, I really actually should be looking at my budgeting. So yeah, it's a big wake up call. So there's a fine line between masking and then also realizing what you're actually doing. Your actions do have consequences. So
yeah, I guess you got to bring it back to like, is it actually going to be helping my personal development or my character and who I want to be or who I think I could be for the future of, my children, or even if you don't want children, like for people to perceive you, is it good for you like that? Or I guess another way to look at it is like, what would I tell myself if I was if I was acting as if the outside person, the friend advising, sort of that way. That's probably a good way to sort of see if you are sort of drawing the lines or sort of pushing the edges between what you think is, self-care or being self-indulgent, as you mentioned, Lisa.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, self-care is not really like spoken, or I don't hear
a lot about it. Yeah.
I don't hear a lot about it, like, coming from other guys, other boys. And I don't know, could it, because you mentioned it before, could it be that toxic masculinity thing, like boys don't talk about their emotions, this, that, like, I don't know.
You should break the chain, Bradley. You should message your mates.
Well, that's the thing. I think the problem with me is, like, what I've realized as an individual is that I feel like being a male, like, I'm not afraid to express my emotions, or say how I feel. Like, I don't feel like there's a barrier with me. Like, I can tell you how I feel at any given point. But I feel like the people I know, the men I know, have trouble doing that. So I think it's those stereotypes that we sort of conform to, even if we don't want to, but that's how society is, right? The constructs of society have brought us to this sort of stage. I don't hear too much self-care, but I'm sure there's obviously men doing the same shit, like helping themselves be better people and improving on themselves, but it's not as spoken out or sort of everything like that. But like, if you haven't done anything for yourself, guys, like, you guys need to think about it a bit more, pay more close attention to how you're feeling, and I'm not saying that you don't, but you should, because at the end of the day, you're left to yourself, right? But yeah, like, because you got me thinking, Lisa, that I don't really hear much about. Yeah.
Well, should you be the one to spark?
Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to say, should you be the one to, spark the conversation and start talking about it and, to your friends, Brad, rather than just kind of leaving it like that? Because if you can express yourself, then like maybe your friends do as well, but they might also think, oh, maybe my friends aren't the type to be, to express, and, practicing self-care. But if you kind of break that chain and you're the one who's going to be the first one to speak up, maybe they'll encourage them as well and realize, oh, actually my friends are the same. They think the same.
Yeah, I'm sure they do, right? But it's just sort of overcoming that first. Yeah, no one's expressing themselves, because that's what happens, right? This macho men sort of stereotype, we don't talk about our feelings. Like, what do you mean? Yeah.
Sorry, Lisa, I cut you off there.
No, that's okay.
What were you gonna say?
I was just saying, I just feel like in general, like, self-care isn't anything that is spoken a lot anyways. like even amongst females. But then I feel like, you know, sometimes, like Sharleen mentioned before, you just do it without knowing as well, because obviously some of those things it's like we have to, like, you know, hygiene, like that's a form of self-care. We just do it. We don't think about it, I don't think. But, you know, I just feel like because it's not being mentioned a lot, it's again not a priority for a lot of us. It's not something in the front of our minds that we actually think about, that we want to express or talk about. So you know, to break it down again to what Sharleen was saying with the whole, you know, the different self-care thing, like that just amazes me, because in general, like I've always just thought self-care was one thing, but it's so amazing to see. If you Google it, there's like maps and stuff just sort of explaining how literally each of those categories, they ultimately intertwine with each other. In general, that's your whole like well-being, and if you don't take care of that well-being, that section there, it's going to affect this one, and then that's going to affect that one, and this one. And I feel like sometimes, you know, people you know, they might have, you know, their physical well-being is down pat, their mental well-being, that's all good. Their financial, they've got a hand of that, but maybe their social well-being, you know, maybe they're having trouble socializing or whatnot, you know. And I feel like if you're able to sort of break down and sort of look at each of those things, then sometimes it's might be easier for you to sort of target and realize, oh, you know, maybe this is something I need to work on, maybe this is something I need to improve on, or maybe this is something I might need to cut out and, you know, change. And I think I like did that like unintentionally. Like I didn't realize like that's how I break down my self-care, and I didn't even realize like that was like an actual thing until, you know, you said it, until I like Googled it. And personally for me, like that's how it has helped me, because I feel like self-care, it's about the habits, the routines that you do, that you put in place to help your well-being, to help make you you know, a better person. And sometimes it's a lot harder to admit, you know, the things that you need to work on, or the things that you need to put more time into. And I feel like a way for everyone to sort of, you know, practice having better routines and better habits, it's to sort of break it down and look at it, you know, try and look at it objectively. Try and realize that maybe in your physical aspect, you might need to work on something. And that could be like sleeping, you know, having a better sleeping routine, you know, not sleeping at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 1 a.m., you know, getting to bed early, waking up, or, you know, drinking water. Just like those little things there, like those little things can really help improve your overall well-being, and you might see that sort of trickle down into other things as well, like your social and your mental health, etc., etc.
Yeah, I've been trying to like focus on my sleep a bit more, because that's something like I have been neglecting quite a bit. I don't get that much sleep, like maybe 5, at most 7 hours, and I've been trying to like sort of wind down a bit more, because, you know, like everyone always neglect, or, you know, views sleep as like, oh, you really don't need that much, or like, you know, if you don't sleep late, then like, oh, what are you know, like you know, you're a pussy or whatever, you know, like, oh, don't be a bitch.
Whoa, what kind of friends do you have?
No, like, say like we're playing games, you know, like calling pussy is a bit extreme. That's on the extreme end. No one said that, but they'll be like, oh, come on, like let's keep on playing, and then you end up like, you know, neglecting your sleep. But that's something I've been trying to focus on, and I never realized that's a form of self-care, as you mentioned. But that obviously will have a flow-on effect to all those sort of other states of emotions that we have, or, you know, like our emotional, our physical care, you know, our states and stuff like that. But yeah, that's a good point, that there's like there's types of self-care out there that we don't really think about, you know. And I guess sometimes if you try to, I think the problem with self-care is that you need to find a balance for all, because if you're focusing too much on your social self-care, then you're going to lack in something else, you know.
Yeah.
And it's sort of trying to hit that juggling balance where you have everything in a sort of nice equilibrium, in a sense.
I agree.
But yeah, it's it's interesting to learn about self-care because I never really paid too much attention to it.
Yeah. Got you thinking, haven't we? You're just like,
yeah, literally.
And I also feel like
you do have me thinking.
If you do start practicing self-care because it's so, I guess, like self-centered, you're very just by yourself in your own kind of environment, that you shouldn't feel guilty putting yourself first and giving yourself that time that you need. For example, like going back to sleeping, if you need to sleep in, then sleep in. Don't feel guilty about it. If you need that, like you're looking after your body, you know, if you had a late night, you need to sleep in for a day or two, then go for it. If you need a lazy day just to wind down, do your hobbies or even clean the house, just do it for yourself and don't feel bad that, you know, your day wasn't productive, but actually in a way it was being, you know, you were actually being productive. You're helping yourself wind down and have that really good, you know, mental state. Very easy day. And you can go about another busy day like tomorrow or whatnot. But at the end of the day, you feel good that, you know, you gave yourself that time to relax. And so your mind isn't too busy. So I feel like don't feel guilty, because at the start, I definitely felt guilty. Sometimes when, you know, I was just too focused on myself and I wasn't maybe being a bit like detaching myself from social media. So maybe I wasn't replying to messages like every minute or so. I just kind of left it there and not reply, and I kind of felt guilty, like, oh, I'm leaving my friend there hanging or whatnot, but really I'm just helping myself. I'm just putting myself first. So yeah, don't feel guilty, guys, because I definitely felt guilty and I realized it wasn't healthy for me, because then all these like cloud of thoughts kind of came to me, and that's when I was working on like personal self-care and emotional self-care. Yeah
I really agree with that whole thing that you just said, like feeling guilty, or like, you know, sometimes you just need to like detach from social media, like, you know, with so much going on, like it can be so overwhelming. Like it's okay to put down your phone and spend like 2 hours, 3 hours, the whole day like doing something else. Like that's totally fine. And you know, people, I feel like because we're so used to social media, people forget like we have lives outside of that. Like, you know, sometimes we can't respond to messages straight away, but you know, if your friend is like mature and they understand, like they shouldn't get angry at you or thinking like, you know, oh, she's not replying to me, blah blah blah, whatnot. Like, you know, you might be busy doing something, and if it's not an urgent matter, then you shouldn't be upset at your friend for not responding. And then like you said, you yourself shouldn't feel guilty for not responding straight away. Just feel like there's this like, you know, untold expectation between everyone that, you know, oh, if they fuck with you, they'll respond to your message. Like, no, that's toxic. That's a toxic mentality.
Actually.
To have. Like that's not how the world works. Like don't go around having that mentality, because at the end of the day, you're just hurting yourself, because you're the one putting up that expectation, not the other person. So just chill out a bit, you know, like Sharleen says, detach for a little bit. It's totally fine. Have time for yourself. Don't feel guilty, and do what you need to do to make you feel better, because your friend ain't gonna do anything to make you feel better. Well, sometimes they might, but you know, you get what I'm saying.
But you gotta look out for yourself first, you know, put yourself first.
Yeah.
Prioritize yourself first, no matter how, you know, like how empathetic you are and, you know, generous and kind you are, kind-hearted.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just realized, like, I think like doing this whole podcast thing is a form of self-care for myself, disguised, like, which I didn't even really know. Like, I think about it because you said social self-care. I think I'm doing this to also help improve my sort of communication skills, sort of, because I suffer, like, I do have a bit of anxiety. I have performance anxiety, and I hate being like, you know, probably from this first episode, everyone's heard, you know, me being like super shy and like repeating like the same words and not properly articulating myself, you know, because I get in that state of,
you know,
yeah, literally, you know, and I still say, you know, but I feel like, you know, doing this sort of podcast will help, is helping. I can sort of say, you know, improve my confidence to be able to sort of speak in front of a microphone or in front of an audience or listeners, you know, no matter how small or how big, it just helps improve my sort of social sort of, you know, confidence, my social confidence and my self-esteem and efficacy to sort of be able to be a bit of a better person, you know, to develop those areas. And now that you mention it, I never really considered it as self-care, but not until now. But I think, yeah, it's probably one of my forms of self-care now that I think of it. Therefore, it can be anything. Self-care can be anything at all, right? Yeah.
Anything. It's whatever makes you feel good. It's whatever you think will improve your well-being. It's not what anybody else thinks. So even though, you know, us three were on here, we've been talking about like what has helped us, you know, that might not necessarily help you, but, you know, over time you will find what you need to improve on, what kind of self-care things you need to do to make you feel to make you feel like you can function at a better level as well.
At a better frequency.
At a better frequency, guys. Your higher self. But in saying so, before we wrap up, do you guys, you know, let's go around. Let's hear your tips or things you want to, you know, any advice you want to give to our listeners of what they can do during this time, because we all know it's quite a crazy period. Everybody's cooped up at home and it can get a little bit stressful. So anybody want to kick it off? Any advice, some tips of self-care, guys?
One thing I've been doing to keep track of my day is writing a list down of the things that I want to do. So it literally can be drink like 5 glasses of water, or make sure to eat breakfast, or make sure to have a good lunch or whatnot. It makes me feel so productive and it actually motivates me throughout the day. So that's one form of self-care that I've been doing, and I think that could be very helpful for everyone who's in lockdown at the moment, because definitely at the start I didn't know what day it was. I didn't know what to do, and I kind of lost motivation, but that definitely kept me on track. So maybe that's a good tip.
Yeah, make your progress like be visually like seen, like or presented, you know, like make sure you can see your progress. Essentially, that's what you're doing, right, Sharleen?
Yeah,
like
definitely. I cross it off and I'm like, yes, I did.
Yeah, exactly. That is, yeah. I reckon that's a really good tip. I don't know. I couldn't really think of any other tips. I guess, like, yeah, as you said, write down your to-dos, your focuses for the day. And even if you get one done, that's all okay, because that's better than none, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of that, for self-care, I don't think I really have much to say. I mean, I think we've made all pretty good points. Like, maybe just don't neglect your sleep. You know, that's probably a big point for me. I mean, with the whole like lockdowns and everything, I don't know if people are still working out there, but if you are working and you're still working, props to you. You know, helping the economy out, but with that, like, just try to get the 8 hours of sleep that you can, essentially, and don't neglect it as an accessory to your lifestyle.
Well, for me, like we mentioned before, just detach from social media. Like, because we're at home all the time, you're probably on your phone a lot, on your laptop a lot. Just remember to take a few hours of the day to do other things as well, and not just, you know, hold your phone the whole day and like chatting to your friends, which is fine. No one's saying you can't, but I just think just detach when you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, or you're feeling like there's too much to, you know, take in. Obviously, with the constant news and with everything that's happening around the world, it can definitely affect your well-being. So just remember to detach, spend some time for yourself to unwind and do other things. But guys, I think that's about wraps up for this episode.
I just realized, as you mentioned when you said that, like, a good tip is when you said social media, and I say this for everyone.
We're back again.
We're not ending it here. For whoever's
just disregard what I said.
For whoever is listening, right, at the end of the podcast, this is a secret tip. But I guess everyone, you know, you said detach from social media.
Get to the point, Bradley.
You say, like, detach from social media. It's like, that's true, you know, but also, like, the most important bit is, like, we need to stop. We're using the wrong measuring tools. We need to stop comparing ourselves to others, and we need to start using the measurement tool of comparing ourselves to how we were yesterday. I think that's the most important part. We need to start looking at ourselves and start measuring our progress from how we were the day before or in the past. And I think that will be the true sort of how do I say it? Like it'll bring much more intrinsic happiness and sort of help in your progress of self-care as a development of yourself as a character, as a person, you know, to start measuring yourself not against the other people or that you know or that are on sort of, you know, the internet, but looking at yourself. But yeah, that's all I had.
Thanks, Bradley.
Beautiful. Thank you for that secret tip, Bradley. But like I said, this wraps up this episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. And like we said at the start of the podcast, we super appreciate all the support so far, all the comments, everything like that. We hope to hear from you guys soon. So remember, link in our Instagram bio, just to fill out the survey. It's anonymous. Say what you want to say. We're open to all of that. So we'll hopefully see you guys next week on our next episode. Bye.
That's a wrap. Bye.
See
ya. Nice.
How many people do you think are listening right now? Like one person? One person listens to the full episode.